Hi, I'm Amy. Welcome to That Going in Life. Today what I'm going to describe for you is I'm going to tell you about the decision-making process that we had that led my husband and I to stay off-site at a vacation rental property for our 9-night Disney World vacation. So let's get into it. Alright, so I have a whiteboard to try to explain to you. So please forgive my writing. It is not pretty, but I hope it is legible for you. All right, so this is actually how we made our list. This is coming exactly from our notebook on why exactly we have stayed. So if you want to hear a little bit about our background of our trip, more details, please go check out part 1 of this series. So we have on-site, we have non-factors, meaning these are things that aren't necessarily important or would lead to any big decisions for my husband and I. And then we have off-site. So we have stayed once on site. We stayed for 2 weeks at the Polynesian Resort in 2017, and then we have also stayed once for 2 weeks at an off-site vacation rental property that was a townhouse called Windsor Resort. So there are basically, it's a bunch of privately owned townhouses and condos in a really nice resort area, so we stayed there. So specifically what we were trying to decide is we were trying to decide between Pop and a townhouse. I hope that wasn't as awkward as it felt. So we were trying to decide between Pop Century and a townhouse between this. So we were trying to decide between Pop Century because based on a lot of recommendations that we've seen online and in podcasts, Pop Century seemed to be the most well recommended for couples value resort because for this trip we couldn't consider moving up for pay. So Pop Century, and then we decided to talk about a townhouse because one of the features of this townhouse is that it has a private pool. And my husband loves this private pool because after a long day at the parks, what he likes to do to really rest his feet is he will just go and float in the pool for like 20-30 minutes, and it really, that complete rest on his feet is a really good time. So that was one of the things that he wanted to do, was to stay at a townhouse. Now that there are condos in this particular resort that are a little bit cheaper that they could stay at, but they don't have private pools. And one of the things my husband and I, we both value a lot is we both very much need quiet downtime when we are at Disney. So that brings me to another positive point about this townhouse that we were thinking of renting is it is very quiet. So when we stayed at the Polynesian resort for 2 weeks, there were a few instances where things were noisy late at night, where we could, basically there was a family next to us with young kids, and of course young kids, they get excited early in the morning for going, so there was some like screaming, yelling of excitement, and there were some like in the evening times like crying, fighting, getting upset. Now it wasn't a big deal. It's very understandable. Like it wasn't bothering. If I wasn't sick, I was very sick and I had like a huge headache, so that was a little bit difficult, but it wasn't, of course I wasn't upset because they're kids, you know. But one thing positive for the townhouse is when we stayed there, it was so quiet, we didn't hear anybody, you know, and so that is a really big positive. But let's go over to, I've been saying a lot of good things about the townhouse, so let's go over and kind of talk about some of the benefits that I have learned or that I had staying for on-site guests. So they have extra magic hours. That is something, whoa, I wasn't joking when I said my writing is crazy. This is a weird angle. So extra magic hours, that is something that we really wanted to consider and we really wanted to think about doing. And that is a big positive. So sometimes they have magic morning in the morning time, sometimes they have it in the evening, and it's just a little bit extra time that we have. Funny enough, one of our sources though says that sometimes the extra magic morning can make the park overall a little bit more crowded, so it's just something to take into consideration. And then the next positive was that this was another big fat 60-day fast pass windows. Okay, and then plus extended time. Okay, so let me explain this. So one big positive thing is if you're staying on property, you get to book fast passes 60 days in advance. And if you're an annual pass holder like we are going to be, that'll be the next video to stay tuned to explain that, is that you get extended time to make your passes. So typically for Disney World annual pass holders, you could only make your fast pass reservation for a maximum of 7 days, right? So technically we are going to be in the Orlando area for 9 days, but sorry, nose itch, for 9 days, but it doesn't matter. We can only make fast pass reservations for 7 days. Now that would have been not an issue if we were staying on property, because if you're staying on property, you can make fast passes for your entire length of stay. So even though we are Disney World annual pass holders, that this, we would have been able to make it for our 9 days, which is how many days we're actually going to be here, instead of the 7 days. So I would say these two things are pretty big factors for what we have there. And then, so let's think. So those are the positives. Some negative things about this also was we would have had to pay parking, and it would be $13 a day for parking, whereas for this offsite property it is no extra charge for parking for this one. And then I want to talk about some things that were not a factors for us, meaning we didn't really care about them. So the first one is Magical Express. So if you are an on-site guest and you are flying, you could take what is called Magical Express, which is basically transportation, big bus transportation from the airport to your hotel property and back. Because we are driving and we're taking our car, that is not an issue for us, so we don't really care about Magical Express. Another thing is magic bands, but I'm going to put a little star next to this one. So we are Disney World annual pass holders, so they're going to send us magic bands, so we already have those, so that's not a big issue. But one thing that personally I don't care about, but my husband really likes it, is being able to charge things to the room when you are on property. So when he is buying things, he loves to just use that magic band to be able to make purchases. But if you are staying off-site, you cannot make those same, because obviously where would it go? So that is negative. You can't charge things to your magic band from the room. And then I am also going to put here general transportation. This is not a factor. So one of the other positives about being an on-site guest is that internal transportation. For Pop Century, which we were considering, it would be the bus system, but there's also like boats, there's monorails, things like that. But for us, we are bringing our car, and we just prefer using a car. We don't really like to use Disney transportation. It's just our preferences. Everybody has their preference. So if you like to use the Disney transportation, great. We're just different, right? Everybody's different for this one. So that's not really a factor for us. And then also another factor was the dining plan. So regardless of where we have stayed, we would not have been purchasing the dining plan. And the reason for that is I sat down and I crunched the numbers like crazy to see what would save us money and what would be most practical if the dining plan would save us money. And actually, based on where we were going to eat, what I suspected we would get and stuff like that, that we would not have purchased the dining plan even if we were on property, because it just wouldn't have made financial sense for us on this trip. So the dining plan didn't matter where we stayed. We wouldn't have been getting it anyway. Another thing that this is maybe a negative. This might seem a little bit weird, but part of Disney's new policy is every day they're going to come into your room and have some sort of security check. I'm very much for anything that they want to do, of course, within reason, and this seems like to be within reason to keep the guests safe. I'm absolutely positively for. But to be honest, if I was coming in for a break, just having to figure out about, oh, did they come in already? Should I ask them to come in at a different time to do this so I could just rest while I nap? That's something we didn't want to deal with, and we just want, on this trip, we really want to be able to be as flexible as possible, and this was a negative. All right, and then, so Offsite, let's jump back to there for some of the positives. So we would be renting a townhouse. This is much more space than we need, but the price jump wasn't that big between a condo and a townhouse to be able to get the private pool. It's very quiet. We don't have to charge for parking, and then we get a full-size kitchen. Realistically, we probably will not be cooking a lot of our meals, but we'll definitely be making some breakfasts before we leave, and so having that kitchen is able to have a nice, it's just a nice option. And then obviously there is going to be a ton of space. It's my husband and I, so it's not like we need space from each other necessarily, but just the ability to like get away and just have it be quiet is going to be really nice. And then this is the last factor, which actually is a very big factor for me personally. So one of the positives that I see a lot when I am listening to Disney podcasts, reading blogs, watching vlogs, anything, is they talk about staying inside that Disney magic for people, and they're saying one of the benefits is when you are staying on site, you don't have to leave that Disney bubble, so it just feels like the Disney magic. You just keep getting to continue it, and honestly, I'm sure that is great for a lot of people where they just want to feel like they're getting away from the world and everything. But one thing that I truly believe in planning any vacation, particularly a Disney vacation, is that old saying, to thy own self be true, right? So you have to know yourself, and you have to be able to be true to what exactly you need. So for me in particular, I am very introverted, and being around lots of people can't, like, can make me a little crazy. Basically, it's really hard. It's very draining for me. And so one thing that I really liked when I had that experience before in the townhouse was actually getting outside of that bubble. So being able to spend some time kind of away from it all and really having a retreat gave me the space that I needed to shut down, to revive myself, and just to be able to get into that mode, ready for some pixie dust and magic for the next day. When I stayed on property, there were people everywhere. So when we went up to breakfast, there were people there. It was just a lot of people, except for in our room, and our room was really small. But just the visual of being able to drive, I think our townhouse is like maybe 5 or 10 minutes away, but just like to get out and to separate a little bit is really good for my mind. And it's what really draws me to staying off property, is because I can have a break from the sensory overload, because like Disney does everything really well, meaning like so many things to see, so many things to smell, so many things to hear, and that's awesome, and that's what makes it special. But also that means that all your senses are like, they are feeling everything, you know. And sometimes when you're just so tired that it gets overwhelming, and sometimes like I've had an adult Disney meltdown, let me tell you, and it's because it's so intense, you know. I don't know if maybe a lot of people can relate to this or not, but if you do ever have trouble with just feeling overwhelmed in a good way but still overwhelmed, I would recommend really this, just looking and just staying off-site, because it helps so much. All right, so let's get down to the price of these, right? Because that makes a big difference. So, oh, I dropped my pen, excuse me. Oh, all right, so the price. Okay, so once again, we're staying 9 nights. To stay at a townhouse, full-on townhouse, I believe it is 3 or 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, private pool, no parking charge. It costs $1,282. This is after taxes. This is what we're paying for 9 nights, which I think is pretty good. I looked at Pop Century, and at the time I was looking, they had like a Gift of the Magic room only discount. And for Pop Century for 9 nights, it was $1,262, but this was before tax, and this was after tax. So it would have been a little, well, I hope this is helpful to you guys. I'm sorry if it's not. So this would have been a little bit more expensive, and this was with a discount. So after tax, it would have been a little bit more expensive. So granted that this was a little bit more expensive than the townhouse, and for us, our priority, it's not necessarily getting the best fast passes. If we didn't get the best fast passes, my husband and I, we understand how to do Disney. That was supposed to be quotes. Sorry, my fingers weren't just going crazy there. We understand how to do Disney in a way that we should be able to get on rides that we want to get on, and we are honestly there mostly to spend time together, you know. So we're not going to be hitting the parks, go, because that's not how we do Disney, right? So we really like to enjoy the ambiance, look at everything. We'll for sure go on attractions, but that's not what's most important to us. What's most important to us is spending good quality time at a place we love. And so in order to make sure that the quality is good, for my husband, being able to have his own private retreat in a little private pool, and for me being outside the bubble, that was worth more than these benefits, because the price is probably going to be similar. I do have to say that price that I looked at for Pop Century, that went away really quickly. So I was looking at this price and I was talking to my husband about it, and when I looked back, the room at that price was gone. So if you are looking into getting something on site, if you really like it, if you see a good price, jump on it, because it might not be there for that one. So yes, so that is the reasoning why my husband and I are staying at an off-site townhouse vacation rental. We will be doing a tour, and I do have to say, if you are introverted like I am, when I show you the tour, you might consider an off-site hotel. Once again, I'm not trying to tell anybody how to do their Disney vacation. Please do it however you want, whatever makes you happy, whatever is right for your family. I just kind of wanted to explain a little bit about why my husband and I are doing it this way. Okay, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for part 3.